It's an iconic record, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice to be associated with something like that.
You bet.
Yeah.
It would be nicer even to get royalty from it, but I don't.
You don't? Because you didn't. That wasn't part of the deal.
No, because as one of the most charming people in the world and one of the most trickiest.
Well, it's a great experience.
Yeah. Then there was The Last Waltz too, which was another.
Oh, that's right.
Experience.
So you produced that.
I was a musical director.
Wow.
Of the concert.
What a sprawling enterprise that was.
It was great. Robbie called me up to do that. It was 1976. That's when he gave me that. So The Last Waltz was, the conceit was that they would be the backup band for all their favorite artists.
Right.
And so we rehearsed with most of the artists at their studio in above Malibu. I forget the town, Zuma Beach or some town like that. They had a studio by this time, and we rehearsed with many of the artists there, and then the rest of them we rehearsed with them in the basement of the hotel in San Francisco before the show. And that was wonderful. I mean, because here again the music reading factor came into play, because these guys, exception of Garth, don't read music. So I would hear the tunes and notate them for myself. Although when Joni Mitchell came, I couldn't figure out the chords. I'm looking at her left hand because I can read guitar chords on the left hand. What are these chords? She said, I don't know the name of them. She says, I tune my guitar funny to make myself stupid, which I thought was a wonderful thing to say, because she was schooled too.
Yeah.
And but
wow.
And then but I get the chords down, and by the time the show came around, I had chords down to, in some cases, down to hand signals and this arrangement. Like when Van Morrison was up there, some of those songs were a little tricky. So I was right below the level of the stage there, and that's E flat, and this is go back to the top, and this is it's going up. Rick's looking down at me playing, So this is the kind of invisible stuff that happens.
And you also had to work around the environment of filming.
Yeah. What would happen was I would, after we got a song routined at the dress rehearsal, the day before the show was the dress rehearsal, and that was so much fucking fun. I felt like a ringmaster at a rock and roll circus, which was so great. And after we had the song routine, I would take him up to Scorsese's room. He was there working out with weights, and I'd give him or his man, him sometimes, the rundown. This is how many chords, who's playing a solo where, and this kind of stuff. So he had his shots figured out, and then that was somewhat of a help to him. I think they were running all the cameras all the time anyway. And then the show came, and for the show, Robbie hadn't even written out. He hadn't finished writing that song, the instrumental called "The Last Waltz," and so during the intermission, he finished writing it out.
Oh my God!
And I taught it to Horns and Larry Packer and people. And
professional musicians, you could just run with something like that and make it work.
They could. Well, they could read music, so I wrote it out for them. Wow. And
so I mean, you were really instrumental in making that thing run.
I felt good about it.
Yeah.
And then. I'll tell you one thing that was instrumental. They did a few numbers without the band, horns showing up. A few numbers, just the band. And I was out in the house, checking the house mix for that, because I wanted the audience to get a good mix.
Yeah.
Then I went up on stage just to check the transition from the horns came out. And Robbie's about to counting off the first number, and I look at the horns music stands, and they got the wrong song up. And I went, wait, hold it. And I told the horn, so.
That was live?
That was live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they put the right tune up, and then they were off and running from there. And then I didn't hear this, but Elliot Mazer was in the truck recording the stuff for the record. And he told me that right after the concert was over, that Dylan's lawyers came in and grabbed the tapes that had Dylan on them so that they could negotiate.
Oh my God.
Right. And then, here's the interesting thing for your listeners and readers. That also was not a live album.
What? The whole thing?
The only thing that's live is Levon's drums.
What?
And Levon's vocals. We went back in horns were out of tune. We did the horns over again in New York City. Rick's bass was out of tune, really out of tune. He did him over again in California. That was a direct feed, so it didn't matter to you so much. Richard was making mistakes in the piano, so he...
Were they really bad mistakes that you couldn't just let it go because it was live?
Well, I don't know.
And what happened for the movie? Was this, I mean...
It's all the new soundtrack. It's all, none of it's live. And Robbie wanted to do better guitar solos. And they all wanted to sing better vocals, except Levon, who would have nothing to, bless him, nothing to do with fixing this thing. He did it, and that was his part, and fun. His part was fun.
Who was that?
Levon.
Oh, Levon. Yeah, well,
his part was fun. So,
but what happens when it's shown as a movie and they're playing different things than what they're...
No, it's the same time code. Levon, the drums and the
right,
vocal were there.
But if you're doing a different guitar solo,
they show his back, they cut away,
yeah,
they goes
yeah,
left, they goes right hand, you know.
Right.
Vocals the same thing, and so that's it. Of course, you know, staple singers weren't there, and Emmylou Harris wasn't there. Right. That's because Robbie determined that they didn't have enough black presence and they didn't have enough female presence, so he got one of each. So
politically correct.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so that's the story about the last waltz, you know. But there you go.
And now you're up here in this beautiful mountaintop. And
yeah. Well, this is Howard Alk, the editor from the You Are What You Eat. And we were up there doing this movie, and I had, you know, he said, I saw this place listed in the New York Times. It's a 120-acre dairy farm with no houses on it for $30,000, $33,000. You want to go in with me? I said, okay. He says, I got $3,000. I said, well, I happen to have $30,000 saved up. That's all I had for my work at Columbia Records and the royalties. And so we sunk it into this place.
But what an investment.
And he and I had
this is fantastic.
Falling out, and I bought him out his $3,000. And this right here was the cow barn. That was the horse barn.
Wow.
Not the part in the left. We added the part in the middle. And the main house was up there.
And so, do you miss the city at all?
Sure. I mean, this is fabulous.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I'm in 45 minutes from Woodstock to a beautiful road up there, and 2 hours from the city.
Yeah, it's not that far.
No, it isn't. And so we get into the city, you know, but...
and the record business has completely changed. It's like not...
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not only a record business person. There are lots of other things, like my wife and I wrote a play. They had its equity premiere 2 years ago. We're trying to place that around now, and so we're into that.
And you play every week at this club?
I play every week. It's my jazz gym. I play it there every week and keep my chops up with my jazz trio. We play around a little bit more than that. And, you know, I've gotten to the age now where I've gone through, you know, over 60 winters in the Northeast.
Yep.
So we bought a little house in Florida, in the Florida Keys, and we have an agent down there who rents it out when we're not there, and we use it as an escape valve in the winter when it gets to be too cold. Yeah. And
so
life goes on.
Because in the middle of winter, it's get pretty isolated up here, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, sort of, it can be fun isolated for a while, but once you hit February, it's just, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see you in April.
Like when you need something to eat, how far away is the supermarket?
It's down on Route 209.
Not too far.
But we also have this huge organic garden. And
we
have a freezer full and canning stuff. We work that garden a lot.
Oh, that's great.
So we have stuff. But we had power out here for 5 days in a row last year.
So after the last waltz, was that the last big project that you did?
I'd have to look at my little.
You know, they've gone back and they've digitized Neil Young's nose. You know, for the reissue.
You see?
In the movie theater, I was in the movie theater. They had a black blob. You know, move around.
Is that right?
When it first came out, there was like they would someone was set on every frame of the negative.
Oh God!
And just did that. And then when it came out on Blu-ray, it was digitally fixed, so you see nothing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So I've done things like I did this big thing at Lincoln Center called Our Common Future. That was a concert that a lot of people played at to sort of promote world understanding. I mean, big things.
Well, it didn't work. You were not a success at that.
I was not a success at that. No. And I did a couple of ballets for Twyla Tharp.
Oh wow.
And things come up. Not as much now because the music's different. I appear very old to people now, and so I did quite a few Japan things because at one point I got a call from a friend in Woodstock saying there are two Japanese people nosing around Woodstock to see if you're still alive. That was a
Oh, that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, I said,
at least they cared.
I was glad to report that I was, and so I did. I think about 4 albums of my own for Japanese audiences. It was just frustrating because a lot of my lyric writing is slang, and they don't get it.
Yeah.
But they're very appreciative and like that,
and so they know the context of where you.
Yeah.
I
did tours over there.
I would think more young people, because those albums are still meaningful to a lot of that they would see your name and try to find you to see whether you could still.
Yeah, they say a lot of people like you and me say a lot of young people, but that's not true because, like I did this rock talk as a benefit for the local theater, and it was, it went great, and that's how I got this young manager who wanted me to take it around to colleges and wherever I could.
Yeah.
And
but
the thing is. It could do no. Young people that think that young people are interested in the past. No, they're interested in 2 years ago. That's the past to them.
Okay, so let me tell you this. So this friend of mine, Colleen Murphy, she lives in the UK now, and she's from Boston originally. She's running this thing called Classic Album Sundays. Mm-hmm. She's doing this all over the world now. She started in the UK, brought it to America. Now it's in Japan, and she's going to, I forget where else. She's got it all over the world now. Mm-hmm. And what it consists of, it's a Sunday night. You come in there, and then she sets up a really good stereo, with records, in a nice club. All cell phones are off. Mm-hmm. You sit on the floor, and then someone comes out and presents the record. So, like she did three sessions on a Sunday afternoon at the Red Bull Music Festival on the Bowery over the summer. So she had Nile Rodgers and Tony Visconti and Ken Scott, and they did Ziggy Stardust, Heroes, and Let's Dance, 3 Bowie albums. Mm-hmm. And each of those guys got up and presented the record as they, like what you would for your experience. Mm-hmm. And full houses, all sold out, sold out, young people. It's fantastic.
New York City, yeah.
And they're all in Boston and New York. So
did she pay these people?
I don't know. You mean you wouldn't just?
No, I would not. Matter of fact, you are a beneficiary of a free interview. I get people asking me for interviews all the time. I will not do them unless I get paid.
Well, I'm
too many people ask.
I'm flat. You're not flat. I crave the attention. But I get asked. Yeah.
No, I mean.
So you do it for money?
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to her because I think to present either of those band albums, or
sure,
you'd get an appreciative full house of young people who would listen. It's a good thing. And they love it,
Well, I'm glad to impart that, but, there are other things I'd rather do with my time.